Hello, folks. This is David Hurley of EasyChessTips.com, your pub chess bluffer, talking to you on Saturday, November the 7th, 2020. I'm sat here waiting for the Crystal Palace Leeds United Premiership game to start around midnight here in Hiroshima, Japan. I mean, the game's happening in England. Sometime in the afternoon, I suppose. It's a lunchtime game or something, I don't know, but it starts at midnight here. So that's what I'm waiting for my late evening's entertainment today. In the meantime, I'm going to report on the latest live game I played with my regular opponent, Dr. M, over the internet on chess.com on Wednesday the 4th of November. In this game, I played white and I started with d4, and I will take you through the game, look at the high points and the low points. We can see over here, what I love about chess.com, by the way, is the way it lays everything out for you at the end of the game. You get a really good report. You can check on the key moments of the game. You can go in for some deeper analysis, but you get an overview after the game. This game was intense. It was a nice win by you-know-who, the pub chess bluffer, and achieving an 81.7% accuracy, which I think would get me through the vast majority of pub games. So I was quite pleased with this game. I was especially pleased with my opening and much of the middle game, which is where I often fade. Once I built up a big advantage, I did fade probably out of sheer laziness, though also where these are clock games. We have 30 minutes each with no increment. So perhaps that was a factor, or at least a good excuse for the less than ideal play towards the end. But I didn't face any you were never in trouble. There we go. Even with a late game blunder, I was not in any trouble, which is very nice. So how did it go? Here we go. My standard opening, d4. We enter the Slav defense. And with this e6 move, we now enter the Semi-Slav defense, which is a fine defensive setup for black. I respond with the old knight to c3. Now, this move here, you see it's marked as just given a single check, which is a good move, good, but not excellent or the best. And when I saw it, it's more of a Nimzo-Indian move than a Semi-Slav move. It's an acceptable move, but nevertheless, when I saw it, I was quite pleased because I felt that it could play well for me, especially if black swaps off the bishop for the knight. Once I've moved my bishop up to d2, if the bishop takes the knight, I can preserve my pawn structure. Although some players actually do like playing with a doubled pawns on the c file. In the Nimzo-Indian, that is. So this swap off also I keep the bishop pair and my opponent gives it up. In the Nimzo-Indian, the reason why they give it up is to get that doubled pawn structure. The whole argument of the Nimzo-Indian, which is a different structure, is whether black or white gains from a doubled pawn structure over here or the bishop pair or not. But that is really another conversation for another type of game. This is the Semi-Slav, and I'm quite happy with my setup so far. We have castling. We have a pretty standard queen to c2 move. This is a very nice diagonal for the queen to occupy, looking at this pawn over here, which is or was nicely protected by the knight on f6. Not that this is a bad move by any means. It's a perfectly acceptable move. And the question then for white is, what will I do with my bishop? Will I do something else and allow the bishop to be swapped off, or will I seek to keep my bishop? I decided to keep my bishop, and the chess engine seems to agree, thinking that this is the best move under the circumstances. So there we go. We can fairly much expect the rook to occupy e8 at some stage. That's not unusual, unless there's going to be this. Unless there's the other one theme, I should say, of the Semi-Slav is this f5 advance. But as I'm attacking the rook moves over. Another option, of course, is to block with the pawn. And at that stage, there could be a little swap off of bishop, knight, and then moving my pawn over, which would be breaking up the pawn structure for the gain of a pawn, but the loss of the bishop pair. Or simply to take the pawn and then be blocking my bishop's access. So that's an interesting move. However, I guess most players at our level would simply move the rook over. I bring in the bish. Now I've got this nice double barrage aiming at this pawn here, blocked by the knight, but just adding pressure there. And we get the f5 break. That's quite nice to see. We have what this is the stone wall. And so castle, attack the bishop. So my opponent is playing pretty well here. I'm maintaining a small advantage. These are nice moves. I think this game was a pretty good game for us. All good. This is a feature of White's play, following John Watson, of course, in his repertoire book, a strategic chess opening repertoire for White by my man John Watson. This b3 move to strengthen this pawn here is a feature of the semi-Slav in some variations, such as this one right here. Okay, the old knight comes over. I jump into that nice hole there. There's a nice place for a knight to be, rather like this knight here. These are happy squares for knights. And so the queen has a look. Now, we put the question to the knight. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? There aren't too many choices for this knight. He decides to head up there, the best option. However, trouble comes later. And it's a very easy mistake for players at our kind of middling amateur pub chess kind of level to make. And well, you will see. Let's get to it first. I begin to attack that pawn structure. The knight comes over, and it gets a little check. It's a goodish move. It's not great. Why did I do that when the bishop seems to be so nicely placed on this diagonal here? So this is a pretty good move. This knight here coming across is looking at this weak pawn. When I attacked the knight that was on e4 with this pawn, it does weaken this structure somewhat. And my opponent, I guess, spotted that and has taken advantage. So I think that's a very good move. That's a good move for black. So I thought what I would do is bring my bishop back with the idea of advancing my pawn to a3 to block, to try to gain some traction on this square once the bishop has disappeared, and perhaps send the bishop through to attack the knight. Now, things turned out rather well, considering this is not such an ideal move. I still have a small advantage here. Yeah, it would have been easier to move the queen to d2. I'm rather fond of this kind of pattern here. Sometimes I keep my queen stuck here for too long when she could be more useful elsewhere, it seems. Anyway, I was fortunate in that my opponent made the first of his not so great moves. This is actually the worst move so far. It's called an inaccuracy. Seeking, I suppose, to prop up this pawn here, though it's not really necessary because the bishop is already protecting the pawn through this pawn. So this is a nicely protected pawn. I'm not going to take a pawn and lose a bishop and then risk losing a queen. That's not going to happen. So it's a missed opportunity to do something better. And the better thing would be to move the knight to c7. Knight c7, looking to kick this knight off and perhaps even pick up a pawn. and even threaten the rook down here. So there's a hidden weakness to this move, which is that it cuts the rooks off. Now, I realized that when I was doing it. This was kind of a temporary stopgap move of mine. It's the kind of thing I end up doing in my mid-game flop. This is part of my mid-game fade. Happily for me, I was not punished, and it didn't last too long, because instead of that, knight comes back here. If I do something else, the knight can swap off. Pawn takes, so knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, queen takes knight. Now the queen is threatening my rook, so I have to do something about that. Perhaps, well, I don't know what I do. I don't know what I do, because that situation didn't occur in this game. I was let off the hook by this weak move here. You see, it opens up weaknesses on these black squares. When you move a pawn, you may be strengthening or thinking you're strengthening your pawn structure or attacking something, as I was with this pawn, but you're also creating weaknesses. When a pawn moves, the squares it was protecting are weakened, and the black squares in front of the king now become weak. But there is another thing which happened, which is in a moment. So I get in my a3 move to strengthen this square here, or protect it against this knight. And I'm happy to see actually that the engine likes that move. The knight then pulls back, and I now move forward. This is what I had been wanting to do for a while: attack the center. But I'm not only attacking the center, and this is something that my opponent missed and made a big blunder, which is this here. It's a mistake, not just an inaccuracy as that one was. That one was an inaccuracy, but it's not a game loser. This one turns the game in my favor. You can see what happens to the advantage bar before and after. So I've gained an advantage through that weak series of moves there, having recovered from my own. So this move actually becomes quite a good move as a result of my opponent's mistakes, and here's why. This weak move completely misses that this knight is undefended. This knight is hanging. Now, 2 moves ago, that knight was not under attack because this pawn was blocking my bishop. My bishop, when this knight was on d5, this was an entirely defensive move. The knight moves away, so now there's not so much pressure. It removes pressure from, although it's not a bad move, it removes pressure from this pawn. And anyway, whether he moved or not, this pawn was attacking. This pawn was going to move up, attack, because it's a veiled attack as well on this knight over here on g5. And it's very easy for casual players at our level to miss this kind of thing. So if you get a chance for a veiled attack, that is, you move your pawn up, attacking something or threatening something, you can uncover the real attack, as it were, which is bishop is attacking the knight, and my opponent did not notice, so he made this blunder over here. And I was then able to pick up a nice free piece. Thank you very much. The pub chess bluffer lives again. So a rather weak, not too bad move, but not the strongest move, turns into a game-winning move, a game-winning combination. Oh, the insight I had to achieve such a thing as that. Ha ha, on we go. Yes, so making the best of a bad job now. So now I have a clear material advantage and a massive positional advantage as well. Now I get lazy. I'm simply happy to swap things off. Okay, a pretty good move. The engine agrees with that, and I just carry on. So now we get into my so-so moves. Not a bad move, but probably not the best. There's better things I could be doing. From my perspective, here. I've got a material advantage. I just want to blast my way through. So let's attack this pawn, see if we can get our bishop in here, attacking h7. My opponent plays a nice move there. I get in there. He gets in there. I now take advantage over here of the openings, the board opening up. I've still got this bishop pair, so I want to open up the board with a bishop pair and a material advantage, get the board open so I can start using those diagonals. And so here we go. Check. Comes in there. Blocked nicely. I have a material advantage. Let me just swap off to keep the material advantage tipping in my favor. The rook is now actually on a nice square, however. So just grab that pawn, move closer to the king. I've got lots of nice bits and pieces getting closer to the poor old king. Doubled rooks. Now this, look at that. I get a double question mark, big blunder for this, even though, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just lazily swapping off material. The problem is that if I take this knight with my knight, my opponent has a great answer, which is to take back the knight with the rook, thereby pinning the bishop to the king. He's got a direct line down onto the king. There's also still this threatening queen here, and a lurking rook over here. So it's not the best move. And in fact, a cleverer, better thing to do, as the engine makes clear, is to move the knight down to g4, then it can come up to f6 or h6 to attack the king, with the queen here lurking, ready for checkmate options. But I was lazy. What the heck? I have a huge advantage. I've got a material advantage. I'll just keep swapping off. So I swap off. I've got 13 minutes left. There's no excuse. I have a big time advantage as well. So really, there's no excuse. It was just sheer laziness. Oh yeah, that'll do. I'll just take that. Now, fortunately, I have such a big advantage that even a big blunder like that it's not going to seriously threaten me at this stage. What I was thinking was that once I've done that, if he takes with the pawn, my queen can come over and pin the rook to the king. But I shouldn't rely on that. You can't really rely on people playing the best move for you. But that's actually what happened. Instead of taking my knight with the rook and getting in that pin, my opponent took with the pawn. Now, I guess it looks like there's an attack going on the queen, but it's not anything that I'm bothered about, because the queen comes over and pins the rook to the king. So there we go. The pub chess bluffer is not punished once again. Yasha. On we go. Yes, now this is going to prove disastrous, this move forward here, trying to unpin. A queen swap-off is recommended, and that's probably, it's probably the best thing, because this queen is very dangerous. You still got the pair of rooks. I'll go up with 2 pawns and 2 pawns and a bishop, so it's pretty severe advantage. But what else are you going to do? When I'm playing at a disadvantage, one of the things I'm more worried about is knights than bishops. I mean, bishops are vicious as well, but you sometimes feel you've got a chance if there's if the material advantage against you is a bishop. I feel it's probably a totally irrational thing to feel, but there you are. What happened earlier? Oh yeah, the king moved forward. So here we go, a humdrum move. I'm looking at the queen's diagonal. I don't really want to get into a situation where the rook comes down here and the queen goes smacking in there, and I get a dumbass checkmate coming against me. So I thought I'll just move that up there, block the queen, protect the bishop, mutual protection there. It's good. It's a good enough move. There we go. A good enough move when you've got a massive advantage. Okay, on we go. Another questionable move comes in, and even my response is questionable. As you can see, I'm just happy to keep. It's an inaccuracy. It's not that bad. I'm just happy to keep swapping off material. I get in the check. You know, what's a lazy player to do? And I'm very pleased with that move. He doesn't move away. This little line here and this nice little gap here where I can get some stuff in and attack the king. That's what I want to do. Now, this is only a humdrum move. Looks like I'm getting support behind the pawn. A better player would probably have done the pawn push earlier, but you know, here we go. An attack on the queen. The queen just moves away with a check. Oh, the king, my opponent does me a big favor here because of this line. I can't get there yet, but my opponent might do me yet another favor. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Oh, you beauty. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye. Now, I'm so happy with this. This is the end of the game. You see, that's it. And I've got 9 minutes on the clock, so there's no hurry at all. Where's the king going to go? He comes down there. Should have gone here, but what can you do? Now, this is checkmate in 2. 1, bosh, 2, good night. But being a lazy player, I just decide to grab the queen, which is okay. It's an inaccuracy because I've missed checkmate in 2, but I think I've got checkmate in about 4 or 5 from here. I forget how it is. There we go. 1, 2. Checkmate in 3. There we go. So there we go. Yes, thank you very much. Very pleasant game. Actually, I was very pleased, as I say, with the opening play for both parties. I think we are improving. The mid-game was okay, and my blunder was not decisive, but unfortunately for my opponent, his inaccuracy and mistakes were fatal. What can you do? Well, what you can do is keep watching videos, keep practicing, keep playing, and watch football. I'm going to be watching Leeds United, my team, try and beat Crystal Palace tonight, having been given a drubbing by Leicester City in the last game they played. Okay, folks, that's all from me, David Hurley, your pub chess bluffer of easychesstips.com. Over and